let's get into it. I'll just start us off. Just do the similar thing.
Yep.
3, 2, 1. No, I'm just kidding. What if I did that before every video?
Definitely keep this in.
Yeah. All right. Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Command and Counter. This day is going to be a little bit different. As you see, there's no playmats on the screen, and I'm sitting here next to Celestial Winner, great content creator. Welcome.
Hello.
And
Yes, thank you.
yeah, so we are here. So Celestial and I are doing a little segment. If you go over to his channel, there will be a link below. Check out his game talk about his tournament that he recently went to. And it was at the Play to Win tournament. And he's going to go through all his rounds he played, how he, I don't know if I should give this secret tip away, but how he placed top 16 with Stella Lee.
Yeah.
And he's going to go through Stella Lee and a lot of cool stuff that happened during the tournament. So go check that out. Make sure to go like, subscribe. He also has a Patreon. Go support. We do this because we love it, not to make $1 million, but hey, if we make $1 million in 20 years, we wouldn't be complaining. But
No, absolutely not.
but yeah, so I'm really excited. I did a 5K tournament here. There was 58 people, I believe. I think it was like 90 something registered and 58 showed up, or maybe 80.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big discrepancy, but it's okay. It was still a blast. Had a lot of fun. Played with a lot of good people. Met a lot of great people. But yeah, if you'd like to talk a little bit about your channel, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I think I'm pretty good on my channel. You know, me and Brad, we've had a bunch of games together. There, you can check out some of our gameplay. You probably see me on his channel. You can see him on my channel. We play together a lot. You know, great guy. Plays a lot of Jolly Balloon Man. And let me tell you what, I don't know about you guys, but I am excited to hear how he did with Jolly Balloon Man at a tournament, because we both took non-meta decks to the tournament.
That's what it's all about. Who wants to be in the meta, baby? I play.
Yeah.
I'm all about the jank. If there's something you know about me, it's know that I love decks that people say that's not good or that's not top tier, or that as soon as you tell me that, I'm gonna find a way to make it the best deck in the world, and that's my mentality.
You know, it's interesting. I really think that's what both of us do,
Yeah,
because
100%.
not a single one of my decks
Yeah.
are meta decks
Nope.
at all.
I'm like, I'm bringing Curie, and people are like, what? Who? I'm like, the emergent intellect, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like,
Yeah, I'm like Thrasios Yoshimaru. They're like, what? The dog?
The dog? What does the dog do? Oh, have you
Like-
ever heard of Rograk? It's white. It's the white Rograk.
Yeah, it's the white rock.
That gets big, and it can actually kill people if it gets big enough.
That did come up relevant once.
Yeah, I mean it is a thing. So I am playing at that tournament. It was about a month ago, so bear with me. I am going off memory. I took a lot of notes, but I also was my first time going to a tournament, and I'm just gonna spill the guts now. I top 16 and had a blast. Had met so many cool people, but we're talking about the MVP. It's not me. It's this guy right here, the Jolly Balloon Man, and this artwork, it is cool, it is creepy, but it's just not good enough. So we're gonna use I always use my full art, it's my secret lair, Jolly Balloon Man. I bring it with me everywhere. I started brewing this deck when the card dropped. The day the card dropped as like a card that's coming out, I definitely started building it on Moxfield, and I built it from scratch. I just used cards that I love in Boros, and I really just wanted to make it a thing. So I've been trying to make it a thing ever since. So
yeah, you know, I'm pretty certain I remember when the card dropped, because I remember seeing you say something about it, and like you were so hype on it. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be a thing. I better make sure I know what this card does.
Three mana Kiki Jiki, at sorcery speed, which we got to work around. But so I love the deck. I actually, if you are interested in learning more about the deck, jump below. I'll link the Balloon Man Discord. I run that Discord as well as running the High Ground Gaming Discord. So either way, whatever you want to do, join either High Ground or join the Jolly Blue Man Discord, and join Celestial's Discord as well. So we have Discords, we jam games, we play all the time. I've been doing play nights every other week. Come join us. I think this will drop Friday. So if you are a future dwindler and you're in the future, yesterday we had a play night, so hopefully you were there. Or 2 weeks from now, go join the next play night we do. It switches days to try to make it available for people that can't join on certain days, so we'll be switching it up every 2 weeks. So,
and I'll definitely say I've been there for one of the play nights, and it was a lot of blast. I have to admit, there's more stacks than I was expecting.
yeah, apparently I have a lot of stacks on my Discord because
Yeah, and it's
people love
not
stacks.
just you.
No, it's not just me. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
you bond with the people that are soulless, I guess is what us soulless stacks players over here.
That helps.
So let's get into it. I'm going to go from the start of the tournament. It was a very jarring start to the tournament. So I'm playing Jolly Balloon Man. I get there about an hour early. I'm like the fourth person in the place, and I'm just sitting there watching videos on certain decks, just trying to get my rhythm, trying to kind of just get in magic mode, kind of like meditate on what decks to be prepared for and what cards people might be on. So he was kind of just getting ready for the tournament. And then I overhear the judge talking to a kid who asked, he had sticker sheets, but he had all the sticker sheets just printed on a piece of paper. He had like 10 sticker sheets. And he was like, yeah, I just roll a dice. And is it cool if I just do it this way? And the judge immediately said, stickers can't be proxied. And I went,
No.
wait,
Okay.
this is 100% proxy tournament. Wait, what?
Wait, so it's supposed to be 100% proxy tournament.
Yes.
But they're like, no proxy stickers?
Yeah, so he said that stickers are technically not a token, and they're technically not a magic card. And the ruling was that the cards in your deck can be 100% proxied, but because stickers, you need to be able to remove the sticker off the sheet to place on your card if you're going to use them. You have to have the actual stickers. So the guy next to me is like, that's why I bring real stickers to tournaments. And I was like, my sticker sheets are I mean, there's sticker sheets, that the normal sticker sheets, but they're just printed, and I wrote the numbers and underlined which ones I would use, so I would know quickly on how much the stickers would be.
So I'm sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off.
Yeah.
So basically, what they're saying is no proxies. You have to have stickers that you're actually putting on the card. Okay, I've never used Sticker Goblin or stickers for that matter. Are they easy to remove?
No, I mean, yeah, it's a sticker, but you
But,
would
like,
literally have to buy a new sticker sheet every time you played a game.
holy
So
cow.
so I overhear
Wow.
this conversation, and it's like at this point it's 10 15 minutes before the tournament starts. So I run up to him and I'm like, "Hey, like I have these stickers sheets, but they're printed, but they're actual like the same as the sheets. Is that cool?" And he's like, "No, you have to have the actual thing." And I'm like, well, I debate that the tournament was 100% proxy. The judge basically said, I've been playing since like forever. Sticker sheets should have never been invented, and I don't agree that they should exist. They don't exist in any other format but Commander. And I was like, well, unfortunately, they are legal in Commander, and so we went back and forth a lot. I said, look, I can literally tear off the wording if you want me to put it on the card for every game. But the judge was cool. He ended up talking to the head of the tournament, and they were like, it's fine. Like, we never made an announcement. So like I went from 10 minutes before the tournament to getting Sticker Goblin basically banned right before the tournament, which my deck revolves around Sticker Goblin. It's my dock side. So I was very happy. Everybody thanked me for kind of dying on that hill to make sure that, because I was like, well, I already submitted my deck list. Like, I need to replace that card. I can't just have a 2/2 Goblin running around. That doesn't do me any good. So luckily we were able to get it situated. But it was a terrifying right before the tournament started.
Oh my word! I bet. I want to. I want to jump and say. So I
Yeah,
played against you a lot. Like you said, Sticker Goblin is so important to your deck, and like the statement, it doesn't exist in any other format. That's because like didn't it get banned?
in every other
It's
format.
not. It's not that it's not legal. It's not that it wouldn't be legal. It's because they decided to ban it. Like
Yeah,
while hot take, I do agree that stickers should have never been invented. They
yeah, and
exist.
the makers of the card designer, I think he came out and said it was one of the biggest mistakes they made. It was on their top. But just to know, I went out and bought all real stickers. So forever,
There
I
we
will be
go.
able to do this until they take Sticker Goblin away from me. So which will be a very sad day because that card
Oh
is
yeah.
potent in my deck. So,
Well,
um,
hey, congrats on you for dying on that hill because like you definitely I know your deck definitely needed that and it sounded like
yeah, there's a
other
Godo
players.
player there, and he was like, I needed Sticker Goblin won him the
Yeah.
game. It's like you gotta have you gotta have that burst of mana.
For the people.
Yeah, it's like I'm not in blue. I don't get to draw cards. I'm not in green. I don't get to have mana. Like this is all I have to just like
Yeah.
ramp into like a win. So was really happy to get that solved, and was very freaking out for a minute, and then I calmed down and was like, all right. And then pairings were up, and it's time to go to round one, and
Yeah.
just like
You're
that.
round one. Let's hear it. You're round one. So
So
let's
round
hear about it.
one was awesome. I met tons of good people at this event, and round one was really cool. So in round one, I sit down at the table and I have me in seat one, and I'm playing Keegan in seat two. He's on Yuriko, and Keegan actually this was his first time coming to a cEDH tournament, so welcomed him. He said, let me let me know if I do anything that I'm not supposed to, and we're all just laughing like, hey, just be chill, play
Yeah.
at cEDH, like just jam
Your
games.
your
Uh,
first time is always definitely like
I,
nerve
I
wracking.
told him I was like it's my first time going to cEDH, though I've been playing competitively for a long time, but
Yeah.
it's a little different. So, and then in seat three we had Jason. He's a really cool guy. I actually got to know him pretty good. He's in my Discord now. We talk all the time. And he was on Timna Malcolm. And then in seat four we had Rogsai, which I was super excited to see in seat five. And I'm sorry, that was Dexter playing Rogsai. And so just shout out to anybody who goes to a tournament, cEDH tournament especially. The first thing I did, I'm used to playing 1v1 standard, modern, whatever.
Mhm.
So you're used to just kind of holding your cards out like this. So the first thing I will say is, and this came up in round one, is first thing I did was turn my chair away from everybody. I looked at the guy on my back shoulder and said, "You're my best friend. Don't tell anybody my cards, but the only people in this room that are seeing these cards are you and me." And I literally turned sideways to just make sure nobody's seeing my cards. And I think that was a very big move because it came up a lot, especially in this game. So, and we'll get into that. So, starting out, we had we sat down, we draw our cards. I cast. I don't remember. Like I said, this was over a month ago. I have some notes. But the Yurko player, Timna Malcolm, we all kind of just had like lame first turns. Rogsai kind of just played Rogsai passed. We were all kind of nervous. We saw the Roger out. He immediately like leaked his whole hand to Jason, who was sitting next to him. And Jason
Ooh.
immediately looks at me. He puts his hand over his mouth and kind of just goes. He's like nodding his head over to him. And I'm like, "What's up?" And he's mouthing underworld breach, underworld breach, underworld breach. And I'm sitting there on some interaction that I have, and I'm like, well, shit, now I'm just going to sit on this. I have to keep under interaction up. So um, I keep that. And then Timna Malcolm actually went down to 4 cards to start the game.
Oh
And they
wow.
immediately go for a Necropotence to try to get back with everybody on like turn 2. So he's about to cast Necropotence. Yurko kind of grabs a card in their hand, and they're like, I'm gonna pitch. And Jason immediately goes, hey, look, uh, I'm not winning here. like, don't counter this. Like, there's more important things to counter at this table. I can't give you too much information right now, but trust me, you need to hold this up. You can't counter this. Like, I will draw 6 cards. I'll only draw 6 cards. And then he goes, no, you'll draw 3 cards. And he goes, dude, I'm down to 2 cards or 1 card, whatever it was. He's like 5 cards. And he's like, no, you'll draw 4 cards. And he goes, all right, 4 cards. And he goes, and then your next turn, you draw none. And he goes, all right, I'll draw 4 cards. Next turn, I'll draw none. So I was like, oh shit, like,
Wow.
coming in here saying you're all new, but you're politicking like a G. So,
Yeah.
he lets him draw his 4 cards, lets him get Necro Potence down, doesn't counter it. But now I know, hey, there's either a Force of Will or Force of Negation. I'm hoping it's Force of Negation. My deck is creature deck. I specifically brought Jolly Balloon Man because it is creature based, and a lot of the free counter spells can't hit creatures, which is why I love the deck. A lot of the counters are creature spell counters or creature spells, so they can't get countered unless it's a Pact Negation or Force of Will. So I'm feeling okay. Like, maybe I'm gonna be doing my thing. So I'm sitting there. I have Jolly Balloon Man in play. I have a Mana Dork. I wasn't doing anything crazy. I was trying to set up a win con. I did have a Staff of Domination in play. I believe in this game I had a Staff of Domination in play. I was sitting there trying to just get anywhere infinite mana that I could get. So I was kind of just sitting there keeping up interaction. I was actually letting the Yurko player keep hitting me because the Necropotence was in play at this point. I had Rogsai also at the table. So I was like, hey, Yurko, just crack at me. I don't use my life total. Keep hitting me. It's fine. Unfortunately, every time he hit me, he was flipping up 1 or 2 lands or like a 1-drop. So I was literally just giving him card advantage, and he was not hitting anybody for anything. So I keep allowing him to hit me, and then finally I'm like, all right, you can't, like, you're getting nothing. You're not hurting anybody. I can't let you do this. So we end up going back around. I don't know what turn it is at this point, but Yurko is kind of like way in the lead. I think I'm been taking damage. I think I'm at 14 life. Then the Necro player has drawn a lot more cards at this point. He is around, I think, like 3 or 4 life. And then the Rogside player is also at, like, I think maybe 7 or 8, maybe 9 life. And the Yurko player goes to hit Rogsai, and then flashes in a ninja, and then we go to damage, and he goes to Brainstorm. Now the Necrobones player is like, can't let this happen, counters it, and then I'm sitting on a Pyroblast, and I'm like, honestly, like, I think I'm fine with this, but I'm at 15, so I'm like, I don't think I can be fine with this. But he's not searching, so at least it's just a brain freeze. Like, I think I can survive this. So I don't do anything. They get into a counter battle over it, and he ends up saying, okay, whatever, I'll let the brain freeze get countered. So we're all sitting there and like, okay, like, I know Necropotence is gonna die. He ran out of anything. He's like, do you got anything? I'm like, nope, sorry. But I had put together in my hand a way to make infinite mana. I just needed to get to my next turn, and I had a nice loop going with FOMO and my commander, where I was just kind of discarding drawing cards and getting extra triggers off Jolly Blue Man at this point. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to keep being able to dig. I have the staff in play. All I need is infinite mana here, and I have it. I just need to get to my next turn. So blind flips the 15 damage.
Oh my word.
And just kills all of us off the blind flip, and goes, no way, I was going to put together, like, on top, like a 12 drop and do 12 to the table. And just hits the 15, and we all just die. And it was such a sweet win because, I mean, he didn't set it up. Just a blind flip 15.
Blind flip 15.
So what can you say? Like, that's, if you're gonna go down, I think that's the way. But I wasn't sad because my deck was doing a lot. I had a lot of interaction. I misplayed. I could have played on my turn before he did that, I could have played a Vexing Bauble
Mm,
instead of I I kept a mana up for a
all right,
Pyroblast because I
all
wanted to
right.
Pyroblast his Yurko because he tapped too much mana to be able to cheat it in. And I was like, because when I did try to Pyroblast, I honestly, I'll just say it, I forgot that he showed the Force of Will because so many turns had gone by and he didn't play it. So I totally
Yeah,
forgot about the Force of Will. Should have played Vexing Bauble. Um, and then he wouldn't have been able to force. And yeah, we ended up all losing right there. But it was a great game. A lot of good guys. We had a lot of fun.
yeah.
Um, was happy for him
What
to win that game.
What do you think was like your main takeaway from that game? Like, what was the highlight? Like, what was the big takeaway from that game?
My highlight was that just the resiliency of Jolly Balloon Man. I think
Oh yeah,
FOMO put in a lot of work. I think I just kept copying him and untapping Jolly Balloon Man to copy him again. I was discarding and drawing cards over and over again, which came up really big because it got me to a lot of things that I needed, and I was kind of stagnant in the early game. So it really allowed me to just like keep grinding. So I was really happy with FOMO in that. I think any card in Boros that lets you draw discard to fill your bin because I was really filling my bin with a lot of like artifacts and things like that. Um,
because
I
you're on Goblin Engineer or
Goblin
Goblin.
Engineer, Goblin Welder, like
Yeah.
especially when you start. We'll get into the to round three. We'll talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
But yeah, there's just a lot of. I was in the game. I could have won. I just needed one more turn and not to be interacted with. But it was a great game. I was really happy with it. I was close to a
Yeah.
win. Couldn't be disappointed, but I had faith in going to the next round. I was like, it's one game. I got more to go. Not worried
Yeah.
about it.
Exactly.
Let's just hit the next one. So
Mhm.
we go to round two. So sitting in seat, I'm in seat four this time, and that kind of
Ooh.
makes me a little nervous because
Yeah.
the decks I'm looking at though, I'm looking at a Rog Thras in seat one, which kind of had me nervous. Just sitting at the table, he puts it down. I'm like, shit, Rog Thras is in seat one, and then I look over, it's a Master of Keys. Oh, I'm sorry, and let me give you the names of everybody. You had Kyle in seat one on Rog Thras, and you had in seat two Stefan, and Stefan was on Master of Keys, but it was landless Master of Keys, which was pretty cool to see. So it's basically all the
All
dual
the
MDS,
MDSCs.
yeah, all the MDSC lands,
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
which came
Interesting.
up pretty big in that game. And then Mothman was sitting to my right. And I was like, okay, like I don't mind rad counters. Like, let's get some artifacts in the bin. So I'm kind of liking the Mothman next to me, and that person's name was Connor. And then sitting in C4 is me on Jolly Blue Man. So
Mhm.
I'm in C4. I will say, like we talked about in your video, tracking my wins and losses. Seat four, I'm at I think a 20% or less win
Ooh.
rate in seat four. It's not great. It's pretty
Uh,
bad. It's a
C four.
it's
Yeah.
abysmal.
C4 is not great for anybody.
Yeah.
I want to interject here real quick and say, man, that this pod really feels like a very not meta
No,
pod.
no. And what I'm scared of is the player sitting across from me on Rag Thras, like in seat one.
Yeah.
But let's get into our cards. So I snap keep my first seven. I'm like,
Oh.
this is a great hand. I had a Village Bell Ringer in my opening hand. I'm like, oh, that's all I can ask for. I got some fast mana. So I take snap keep. We go around the table. A Rog Thras goes down to like four cards, and
Oh.
I'm like,
That
okay,
that's always a good
that
feeling.
took a lot of like the anxiety out of this game. I'm not
Hmm.
feeling as bad. I have the snap keep. Master Keys, I think, goes down to six. And then I think the player to my right snap keeps their first seven. So I'm like, okay, we got some like obviously Mothman has a good hand. They snap keeped it. So
Yeah.
sketchy on everybody else. So I'm sorry, Rogfest went down to three cards. So they went down to
3.
three
Oh
cards.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so they go ahead and they cast they play a land, and they just pass. and he ended up Rogthras didn't draw a card like a land for so many turns. He was just on one land. It was nuts. Like
Oh
I don't think
wow.
I've been there, and he just was literally sitting there, and I felt so bad for him. But at the same time, it's tournament. You're like,
Yeah, yeah.
sucks. But I I
You want
I'm not gonna
you want to
sit here and
capitalize on it.
yeah, gotta capitalize it. So we go around turn ones. I end up getting a Ragavan down, and I'm happy with it. I get a Ragavan down, and I believe one mana rock. So I'm feeling good. I got because I believe I Simian Spirit guided out a Ragavan and got a Soul Ring into play. So I'm happy. And then I Mothman goes and he ends up casting like a One Ring, I believe, on turn 2.
Oh
And I'm
wow.
like, oh shoot, like a One Ring on turn 2, like that's nuts. And I end up top decking a Skyclave Apparition. And when I say my MVP of this game was Skyclave Apparition, it put in so much work. I'm sorry to get excited, but this card
Yo,
is nuts in Jolly Balloon Man. I
yo,
throw it down. I got the extra mana immediately. The table just goes, oh, hit his One Ring, and I'm like, yeah. So I hit the One Ring, get it out of here. He's like, oh crap, like my whole strategy was built around the One Ring, and I'm like, I like hearing that. So, uh, so I Skyclave Apparition, the One Ring. Then
I want to say here, I've been on the receiving end of your Jolly Balloon Man and the Skyclave apparition, and if you're out there watching this and you see that happen, get rid of it because good luck otherwise.
so I end up then copying it, and I
Yep.
exile his Mothman because he had Mothman in
Oh,
play as well at this point. So I end up
dang.
exiling Mothman, and then he chose to put Mothman in the command zone instead of under my balloon copy of Skyclave Apparition. And just to walk people through, if you ever have your commander exiled by the balloon version of Skyclave, just keep it under the balloon because at the end of my turn I have to sack my balloons, and then you'll get your 4/4 like for Mothman you'll get a 4/4 illusion, but because he put it in the command zone, he ended up
Mm.
not getting that 4/4 illusion. So
Ah.
so it came up again too because on my next turn I ended up eating the not the Mothman, but the Master of Keys that came down. Like I said, this Skyclave put in work. It ended up eating the Mothman. It ended up eating the Master of Keys. So we go ahead and then Master of Keys. When he did cast Master of Keys, he flips a bunch of cards, gets nothing of value in the graveyard, and is like shit.
Mm.
Passes turn. I go for a win attempt with my Village Bellringer. So I cast Village Bellringer. Master of Keys, like they start talking. They're like, "Shit, like this is win." Everybody's talking. I'm completely silent. I'm not saying anything. They're like, "Wait, is this win? Is this infinite?" Nobody has any clue because nobody's ever played against Giant Balloon Man. So they're like, "Wait, he has a mana dork. He has the Jolly Balloon Man. Does Village Bellringer go infinite here?" And they're like, "No, I think he just gets a couple. Like I don't think it goes infinite." And I'm just sitting there like
You sit there like that meme where you're
they keep
like,
they keep looking at me like, hey, did you go infinite here? Do you? And I'm just like,
is like,
and then they asked me again. I'm like, I'm casting Village Bellringer. Like that's the amount of information I'm giving you. I'm casting. Like, do you have it or not?
yeah.
So they talk. Do you have anything? Do you have anything? They're like, no. The Master Keys player's like, look, I have a pact, but I don't want to use it. But I guess we have to because I think he wins. And they do the math, and finally somebody's like, yeah, he wins. He wins here if we don't do this. So he packs and negations me, and I'm like, yeah, like that's the one because he was tapped out, and I was like, that's the one thing you could have had.
Yeah.
And he drew a couple cards off Aristic Study, and so I'm like, okay, it goes to the next. I pass turn. I tell them they sunk my battleship. You got me. I'm not too sad. I'm sitting on a Savine's Reclamation, so I know like I just need to
Ah,
get to my next turn. Like nobody can win. I just need to get to my next turn. I can Savine's and just go right back at it. So it goes to Thras. He finally draws a land and he plays it. Plays out like Thrasios. Um, and before he ends his turn, the guy next to me that's playing Mothman looks at the Master of Keys. He's like, "So you're literally on landless Master of Keys?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, man. I don't play any. The only lands I have here are MDFCs." And he goes, "Oh, interesting. I Bajuka Bog your," and he Bajuka Bogs his. I think it was his one of his lands that tap, whatever. But he only had at that point he only had 4 lands, and he had to pay for his pact on his upkeep. And he
oh,
couldn't search for the land because he admitted that he doesn't play any basics in his deck. So I was like, smooth move, this guy, like confirming that he doesn't have any basics in his deck. So gives it away, blows it up. He's like, I can't search. Has 4 land, goes to his turn. He's like, on my upkeep, I will cast this dark ritual for 3 black. Ends up paying for the Pact of Negation and passing
oh,
turn. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. I'm sad because I feel like he's the only person left with interaction. He drew a lot of cards. And I'm like,
mhm.
shoot. So goes to the next player. I'm like, he red counters us, I think, again. It gets back to me. I Savines. I get Village Bellringer back into play, and then they're like, "You guys have anybody have anything?" They all sit there and talk for 10 minutes, like a card's gonna magically appear in their hand to stop this, and I'm just like, do I have it? Do I have it?
So,
Do
I
I
have it.
have it? Like,
Yes,
and
yes,
they're all
no.
talking about it. They're all talking about it, and they're like, "Yeah, we can't do anything." So I untap all my shit, tap,
Go
make infinite,
tap, make infinite.
infinite Jolly Balloon Man balloons for the Village Bellringer. Swing at everybody with 99 red balloons. Take game 2. Feel really good
Smother,
about it.
smother everyone to death with them
Yeah,
balloons.
them balloons. You can't have latex
Nice,
allergies around Jolly Balloon Man, or they'll get you. So it was a really good
nice.
win. I felt really good. But Skyclave, they killed the Skyclave apparition after it exiled a lot of shit. But it got so much value. It was the MVP of that game. Took out a
Oh,
one ring. Took
absolutely.
out took out 2 commanders. Like it put in work.
Oh, I bet. I bet. I like I said, I played against your Jolly Blue Man with that card, and let me tell you what. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I can
it's nuts.
imagine.
Once you can keep just copying it, it just puts in so much work. And
Yeah.
what's funny is at the end of the day, the coolest part about it is I don't use my life as a I don't use it. So when I'm giving away, because afterwards they get these creatures, they get like a 4/4 or a 3/3 illusion, and then usually, even though I gave it to them, they're not hitting me with it because I usually have creatures on the table. So then they just
Yeah.
start hitting like the Adnos player, and I'm like, sweet. Like, not only am I exiling all their shit, but now I'm basically hiring them as a muscle to start punching the Adnos player for 3-4 damage because that's
Nice.
what you get after it.
Yeah.
So it's perfect. I
Nice.
love that
That's
card.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome. That's awesome. Well, that's a great win. So now you're what, at 1 win, 1 loss?
one win, one
That's gotta be
loss.
feeling good. That's gotta
Yeah.
be feeling good now.
Feeling really good. Yeah. After
Great
that,
win.
it was a quick win too. I think we were one of the first tables
Oh,
done, maybe the
wow.
second table done. So it felt really good. Like it, we were playing pretty quick because the one player was 1 land. He's just passing, so it was a pretty quick game. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
so let's get into round 3. So round 3 was really
Mhm.
interesting. Really cool table. It was probably one of my favorite polyticky tables, and
Ooh.
it came because there was another player at the table that we just kind of started talking before the game, and we really bonded, and he seemed like he knows what he was doing. So I kind of knew like, hey, if stuff's popping off, I felt like I knew I could trust him to make the right decisions. So in seat 1, we had Vile Smasher Thrasios, which is a really cool deck. You don't see it enough. You never see it. I love that deck. I used to play with a guy that played it a lot, and I
It's a
haven't
really
seen it.
fun deck.
It's a
Love
fun
that
deck.
deck.
It's a cool Vial Smasher's sweet. And that was Sean, and that was seat 1, and then Tameshi in seat 2. And Tameshi
Ooh.
was piloted by Pete, and Pete knew what he was doing. You could tell Pete's Tameshi. I just knew that that's not the player to buddy up with, because that deck is very powerful and it's not going to be doing any of the things that I want to be doing at the table.
Yeah, listen, if you're playing Tameshi, you have to know what you're doing.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
and
You
yeah,
can't play that deck, and it's so synergistic. You got to
oh
really
yeah,
plan
yeah,
for its turns, and you have to be prepared, because it can just,
yeah.
like Stella Elite, it can just win on the spot. So I have that in the back of my mind. I'm like, all right, don't trust this guy. but he was a cool guy. He was a cool guy. And then you had me in seat 3 playing Jolly Balloon Man. I'm feeling good in this pod. There's a lot of blue. The whole pod was blue except for me. But once again, I like my creature combos. I know that the other players at the pod, people are going to have to react to them. So I'm hoping a lot of my stuff slides here. And then sitting in seat 4 is Jake Collins. And Jake is actually the guy that I buddied. He was sitting across from me. He runs the Bird Brain podcast. So if you have never listened to it, he was on Derevi. He's a huge Derevi pilot. He's been jamming Derevi for a very long time. He has a whole podcast dedicated to Derevi. He's got the special edition of Derevi tattooed on him. He likes Derevi. Let's
Oh,
just say
nice.
he loves Derevi. He just joined my Discord recently. So shout out, Jake. It was wonderful playing with you. We got to get more games in. Really appreciate the games that we
Dude,
played. But it was a fun game, and you're going to hear some cool shit that went
Derevi,
down at this table.
Derevi is definitely a sweet deck. I love that deck.
Yeah. At the same time, though, I knew Drevi, and I knew that was going to be an issue, and I knew that I was in like a weird spot at this table. So,
Yeah.
so we get into start the game, and immediately, we're gonna go into turn 1. So I had a turn 1 Soul Ring into a Mana Vault, and then so I popped off for all the wrong reasons. I like turn 1 Soul Ring into a Mana Vault, and then I got down Goblin Engineer like immediately, and
Mhm.
I had maybe an Arcane Signet, I think, as well. So I get that all down with the Goblin Welder, and ended up with a FOMO as well on my next turn. So on turn 2, I ended up pitching a Basalt Monolith into my graveyard, and I was literally using my Goblin Welder and copying Goblin Welder with my Jolly Balloon Man to tap my Mana Vault for 3, sack it. There's a Goblin Welder, putting a Basalt Monolith into play. And then once Basalt Monolith came into play, I'd tap it for 3 more, use Jolly Balloon Man to copy Goblin Welder, to then float all that mana, tap Goblin Welder to sack the Basalt Monolith, putting Mana Vault back into play, and then using Mana Vault to make... So I was just making all this mana. I had nothing to do with it. Literally nothing. I was like, everybody was sitting here staring at me like, Jolly Blue, stop Jolly Balloon Man, stop. I'm like, I got nothing. I literally just kept drawing. I kept drawing land and mana rocks. That's I literally drew like all but 2 of my mana rocks in the whole deck.
Oof.
I had them all. Like I at one point, like I just had them all in play. Like I had every mana rock in my deck in play and nothing to do with it. It was so sad. I was so sad this game.
Dang.
But Tamesh Derevi ends up playing a bird. I think Vial Smasher played a Orcish Bowmaster. Then Derevi played a Mockingbird, copying it, and shoots the Bowmaster. Has a copy of Bowmaster. Then starts picking off because Tameshi was starting to go off. And I'm just sitting here like, man, look how much land I can make. Whoa! And I'm not doing anything with it. I'm just like trying to draw cards. I'm like doing FOMO mage or FOMO to discard and draw cards. I'm just trying to dig, trying to get something going. I'm like, I have the mana. I just need anything to like combo it with. So I'm really just trying to get Staff of Domination at this point, because if I can get Staff, I can really just start going into Staff loops with that much mana, and I just can't get there. So I end up watching Tameshi just gets like a uh displacer kitten down,
Ooh.
and we're like,
Ooh.
oh no. So like
Oh
we're looking
no.
to the bowmaster player, and we're like, all right, like it's your job to like you got to take that thing out. And Jake is like, you know, he casts an Agatha Soul Cauldron, and he started eating my in the early game. He started eating my artifacts out of my graveyard, so I
Ugh.
couldn't do my loop eventually. And I was starting to get down on artifacts because I was sacking so many to like do my thing that now I'm like, oh crap! Like now you exiled my artifact that I can't. Yeah, my basalt monolith is gone now. So so what he does is he casts an imposter mech, which is the artifact version that's not a creature, to copy the Orcish Bowmaster that was the Mockingbird Orcish Bowmaster. So he has the Mockingbird Orcish Bowmaster, and with it, he ends up using that to um, kill my Goblin Welder. So my Goblin Welder ends up dying. The Derevi player um, ends up eating his own. It wasn't my ranger captain. It was his own ranger captain. That's how he got Mockingbird, and he sacked it to stop Tameshi
Yeah.
player. And he ends up. So my Goblin Welder's dead. He has the imposter mech version of Orcish Bowmaster, and it's wreaking havoc on the table. He's got Displacer Kitten. He's got an imposter mech. We're all really scared. So he goes for the win, but on his upkeep, the ranger captain was sacked. So he eats the ranger captain. He had eaten the ranger captain on the last turn that Tameshi had, and gave all his Orcish Bowmaster token and the Orcish Bowmaster, because it had a counter from the Agathas, both became the ranger captains. So could
Ooh.
sack them. So he had like double control the table on who he wants to be able to do things. So it goes around. He sacks the token to stop Tameshi from winning again. Then it gets to me. I'm my Goblin Welder's dead, and the imposter mech sitting on the table as an Orcish Bowmaster, but the Displacer Kitten's in, so we know he can keep flickering it and making it whatever he wants, and that's like an issue because there's some potent stuff on the table. So I end up looking at Jake, who's playing Derevi with the Agatha Soul Cauldron, and I just stare, I like get his attention, and I just stare at the imposter mech, and I'm like, and I look at him, and I'm like, I put my pinky kind of like hiding from the table on my Goblin Welder, and I'm poking at it. And then I look back at him, and he's looking, and finally you just see that light bulb go off, and he's like, oh shit, okay. And he's like, yeah. So it goes around turns. Tameshi is going to try to go for a win again, and he ends up casting a freaking what's the thing that turns everything into a 1/1 toad, but it has like you can target a bunch of creatures.
Oh, the
Drowning.
yeah. I know which one. I know which part you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
It's
So he ends up casting that. And when he casts that, he uses that cast to go to flicker the imposter mech. And
mhm.
that's when Jake, the Derevi player, ends up in response copies my Goblin Welder, exiles it out of my graveyard, gives his creature the ability of Goblin Welder. So he taps it, exiles or makes him sack his imposter mech that he just targeted to flicker, and then he ends up having to sack that, and he gets a soul ring in return. And we're like, sweet, like that's huge. So the whole table's like clapping for Jake, and they're like, "Wow, what a play! Like that's a nuts
Whoa,
line.
play! That's
Like that's
awesome.
nuts." And here in my head, at first, I'm like torn. Like part of me is like, "That I came up. Hey,
Yeah,
that
that's
was me,
me.
guys.
That's
Like
mine.
praise me. I want the love. Like I." And then the other part of me is like, I'm not saying shit. I don't want anybody looking at me like, "Hey, wait, now we need to worry about that guy. If that guy saw that line." Like now I'm gonna be overly cautious on his turn and like what he's trying to do. So like part of me was like, I want the recognition, but Jake was cool. He immediately goes, as everybody's like, he was like, hey, I can't take the credit. He's like this guy pointed it, like the Jolly Blue Man player pointed it out. Like he was the one that showed me the line, and then I was like, "Oh, good, that was crazy, like good line." And I'm like, "Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you,
That,
thank you." Uh,
that was a good line.
it
That
was
was
pretty
a good
sweet.
line.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. Like it just came up, and I was like, "How do we not lose?" So it ends up like Tameshi like keeps trying to win, and we're all struggling to keep up at this point. The Displacer Kitten's not dying. He just turned everything into a freaking 1-1. Um, and I'm sitting on Angel's Grace, and I keep keeping one planes open like the whole game. At that point, like I was sitting on Angel's
Yeah.
Grace forever, so I'm not worried about anything at this point. I'm like, if he goes for it, we're getting close to time. I still have this Angel's Grace, and we eventually got to a point where Tameshi was trying to win again, and was putting a win on, and I was like Angel's Grace, and there after I cast that, we're all like draw, and we
Yeah.
all drew there. We had like 2 minutes left. It was gonna go to my turn. I couldn't do anything. I I didn't have anything to win. I was just had a lot of protection to like not lose, and
Yeah.
we ended up just drawing there. But it was a really fun game, really cool pod. A lot of table talk, a lot of like cool interactions. They made deals. Jake was like talking to the Tameshi player. He'd be like, here's here, and he'd like put a card down and be like, I have this. I could respond to you with this, but I'm letting you know I have it, so you don't try to win, and like we can work together for whatever, like against the Jolly Blue
Hey,
Man players. So like it was a really cool game where people were like super interactive. Everybody's having a good time. We were talking. We were all strategizing, trying to like beat each other, and it just made for a really good game.
that's awesome. That sounds. Those are the kind of games like in a tournament. It's a shame it goes to time, but like a draw's better than a loss,
Yeah.
and like those are the kind of games that are always fun. Like the games where like everybody's like doing a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah, and it was a blast. I was just so bummed. I made so much mana and I could not do anything with it. I think
Oh,
eventually I did have a Staff of Domination in play, but because they had gotten rid of he had exiled like my Basalt Monolith, I couldn't go infinite mana with it, and I was
yeah.
literally at one point just using it to tap 5 and draw a card. Like that's what I
Oof,
was doing. So
jeez.
it was yeah, it wasn't the best, but it was cool. Like we had a really it was a really fun game. I really
All right.
appreciate those. So shout out to those guys. Had a great time, and go check out the Bird Brain podcast if you want to learn all things about Derevi.
So now you're 1-1-1, right?
I'm 1-1-1 going
Ah.
into, and this was only a four. There was only 4 rounds before semifinals for this one
Oh, really?
because
Okay.
there was less people. They ended up asking everybody to vote on whether we wanted to cut to top 10 or cut to top 16, and they would let the first and second players get a bye in the semis, and they'd just go straight to the finals. And everybody, I voted for the top 10 because I was like, I know I get, in the beginning of the tournament, I was like, I'll be in top 10, like I can do it. Uh, but everybody else voted top 16. It was like me and like 14 other dudes that wanted the top 10. But they did top 16. So I'm going into final game. I know it's win or go home.
Yeah.
I'm really confident. My deck's been performing very well. It's just I know I just need to get the right things. I was surviving correctly. It was doing really good at my utility. After every game, everybody talked about the Jolly Balloon Man's utility and how impressed they were with the way I was able to like use the deck to do a whole bunch of things that were like not necessarily winning me the game, but they were keeping me in the game and keeping people kind of out of the game.
That deck really does like it always surprises me every time I play against it. It surprises me how good that deck is at like staying relevant and like kind of playing control
Yeah,
almost. Like
so I built it to be a blue deck.
yeah.
I'm a mono blue player at heart. That's like my favorite decks to play. And when I started brewing that deck, I honestly was really like, what can I do to be like white Staxy? Red is fast as shit. Like, what can I do to really push wins, but also play blue? So, I load it with Pyroblast and Red Blast, and in this next game, you're gonna feel the full wrath of the Jolly Balloon Man,
The
because
Wrath of the Jolly
this
Balloon
was
Man.
my favorite game of the night. It was the fourth game, back against the wall. We all talked. I was like, does a draw here help me win? I have no idea. I haven't really been to tournaments. I don't really know how to
Yeah,
draw into like the top
dude.
16. And everybody's like, there's
Tournament
no
path
way.
is hard.
They're like, there's no way you get in without winning. And I was like, okay, well, we're playing then. So we go into game 4. So we have sitting in seat 1 is Russell on Glarb, which you know I'm very familiar with. Then I'm in seat 2, which I'm super pumped to be in seat 2 of this game. And then I am just sitting in a pile of the meta. Like, this is the point where you're just in the meta. So sitting across me is TNT. So we have Timna, Thrasios, and then we have T and K, Timna and Crom. And I'm like, okay, we have 2 grinders. Glarb is gonna control and kind of grind and do its thing. It's not gonna try to win quick. So like I'm in mulligan mode for. I'm coming in like, what do I need to try to like win this game? So I draw my first 7. I don't take it. I go second 7, and I'm like, this is it. Like this is the hand. Like I think I win this game. Like I win this game. So I have Karn. I have that. I have a arcane signet, and I have a way to get and then I have Soul Ring. So like my turn 1 is like land, Soul Ring, arcane signet, and then I just pass from there. I don't do anything too crazy. I literally just do that and I pass.
Yeah.
It goes around. The player in front of me literally was like artifact. It was like Soul Ring, Sensei's Divining Top, spins the top, 3 cards, and then like a Mox plays a Mox. I don't remember what Mox. It was like a Mox Diamond and a land, and is just like super ahead of the table. And I'm like, shit. And that's Glarb. I'm like, Glarb is about to pop off. Like,
oh yeah, Glarb with top, man. Oof.
But I'm sitting here staring at my turn 2 Karn, the great creator. Nobody plays a creature. It goes all the way around. Nobody plays a creature, gets back to me. I slam, and I have protection. I have a Pyroblast. And I'm like, Karn?
Ooh.
And I'm just like sitting here looking around, and everybody's like, can you do any? Can you do any? Can you? They're all like, can you do anything? At this turn 2, my first draw was a red elemental blast, and my second draw was a pyroblast. So I literally drew 2 of my counter spells. So I'm just like sitting on 2 counter spells. Cast Karn, pretty confident in it. Everybody passes.
Everybody passes. Can you? Somebody do something.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And there's like everybody, except for the player across from me. Everybody has a mana rock out. It affects the dude, the Glarb. Glarb literally put his hand down and his head down and was just like, he's like, it's round, like whoever wins this, like goes to the top 16. Like that's where we're at. So, he was just devastated at this Karn and felt this. Oh. I felt a little bad. I was like, that sucks. But I also was like, I'm popping your diamond. So I plus it, pop his diamond, get Karn a little higher. I then pass turn. The player across from me playing TNT goes to cast a Rhystic Study. I Pyroblast it. And then the table literally is like, well, it goes around too because he casts it, goes to that, and I'm like, does anybody have anything for this Rhystic? And they're like, fuck you. Like, they didn't really say fuck you, but they're like, screw you, dude. You have Karn in play. You're screwing all of us. And I'm like, dude, we can't let this Rhystic happen. And pass gets to me. I'm like, Pyroblast, and he's like, no, he doesn't have protection. Kills the Rhystic. Goes to the TNK player. Goes. I don't remember. Somebody else cast a Rhystic here. It's either the TNT player or the TNK. I think it was Tim Necrom, or it was Glarb on their next turn. And I want to say it was Glarb. So Glarb's pretty screwed, but has 3 land at this point. So goes heads, and my Karn has been plussed a lot. So it's like turn 3 at this point. Goes to cast a Rhystic, and I Pyroblast it. and then everybody's just like, what? What are you playing? Like Control Boros? And I'm like, yeah, like I
Yeah.
actually am.
Yeah.
And then I say, I'm like, I'm a blue player at heart. So for the rest of the game, every time they pass the turn to me, they're like, pass the turn to the blue player. And so yeah, it was pretty funny. But ended up getting down. I got Jolly Balloon Man down. I've got some good. I do have FOMO in play. I like drew him a lot, so I'm kind of just copying, drawing, discarding at this point, trying to get a line. And I do have Village Bellringer, and I'm like, okay, like this is my moment. I'm gonna try to go for it on my next turn. So I pass turn. The TNT player ends up casting. They had in play. They had a Devoted Druid in play, and I'm nervous about Devoted Druid. I'm like, that's not good. So they
Yeah.
end up turning it into a
You got to gear it up.
vehicle. They turn it into a vehicle. Thrasios is in play. They start going, all right, I'm going to infinitely activate this, putting
Yeah.
-1/-1 counters on it to infinitely activate Thrasios. And we're like, does anybody have anything for this? And then all of a sudden the table just goes, wait, it's a vehicle, Karn. And he's like,
Yeah.
oh no. So he like put his whole
Oh.
turn into this play and ends up having to pass
Uh.
turn. So they pass. They're like, he's like, I'm not casting anything. I'm gonna leave up interaction for Jolly Balloon Man because Jolly Balloon Man's gonna try to go for it. Like everybody felt it. They felt like I was gonna go get actually, I didn't have Village Bellringer. I searched for Village Bellringer off of an Imperial Recruiter. Sorry, like I said, it's been a month since I played this tournament, so my
It's
notes don't
understandable.
have everything in it. So I do have Jolly Balloon. I did telegraph the line. Everybody knows I have Village Bellringer. Once again, the table talks about it. They're like, how does he make infinite mana? Is he winning on his next turn? They're all having a conversation. So TNT says, I'm gonna hold up interaction. TNK also is like, I'm going to hold up interaction. I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen. So I end up saying, okay, that's fine. So I go to my turn, upkeep. I get silenced. So
Ooh.
so he silences me on my upkeep. I respond by flashing in Village Bellringer because it has you can do that. And
Yeah, you can do that.
so he silences me. Village Bellringer enters the battlefield. I go to my untap, and he has a cyclonic rift, or not. It was either Psych Rift or whatever, where you sack the lands.
Chain
Chain
Reaper.
of Vapor, and he chains it. Yeah, he also has that interaction, so he chains it back to my hand. And in my
Oh.
head, I'm like, dang it, because I was like, I hope he silences me because he locks everybody out of this line. And as soon as
Yeah.
that hits, like it's over. Like only he can interact with me. And so he ends up bouncing it back to my hand. I'm like, shoot.
Uh.
They still are trying to figure out how I get infinite mana. So I pass. I'm like, yeah, you got me. You sunk my battleship. Like you got it. I pass turn. The guy's like, how do I get rid of this Karn? So everybody's attacking Karn, trying to kill it. But I have all my blockers, so like they can only do so much. So
Yeah.
he passes. Gets to him. He's like, all right, like does anybody have like any more things we can do like to stop Jolly Blue Man? He's gonna go for it again on his next turn. Pass. It gets back to me. I cast the Village Bellringer. No response. I then activate my Karn, turning my Mana Vault into a creature. And then everybody's
Oh,
like,
there you
everybody goes,
go.
oh no.
Oh.
And I go, tap my Mana Vault. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, copy Village Bellringer, untap Mana Vault. So before this
Oh.
happens, though, 15 minutes goes by where I cast my Village Bellringer, and everybody's just like, do you have anything? Do you have anything? Do you have anything? And they're just like, do you have anything? Do you have anything? Do you have anything? And they're all just looking at their hands once again. And I'm just like, Village Bellringer, do I have it? And they're like, hold on. And they all just keep talking about it. It was like 15-minute conversation of like how to stop this. And I'm like they either have it or they don't. And I'm like, all right, like you guys got it. So I ended up sitting there waiting. They like deliberated, and they just kept sitting there in silence. And I'm like, not letting it resolve yet. And I'm like, you guys, I think I have it, right? Like, I don't think you guys have anything. And finally, they're all like, yeah, I don't have anything. Yeah, I don't have
Yeah,
anything. Yeah, I
yeah,
pass on it. And I'm like, "Bah, bah, bah," and I'm like 99 red balloons at everybody, and they're like, yeah. I'm like infinite
yeah.
colorless. So I ended up getting it in
Nice.
game 4, like back against the wall. I have to pull it out. It was just a great game. It was my favorite game of the
That's
night.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, sometimes when your back's against the wall, it really puts everything in perspective, and you're like, yeah, I gotta like you're like I gotta
Raise,
make the break.
elevate my play and get
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
So
dude. I have to admit, like that Karn with the mana vault, like that's awesome. I don't think I would have seen it because I'm not used to seeing Karn. So like, if I was your opponent, I probably would have missed that as
everybody
well.
sees it. They go
Like,
stacks piece. I go no win
yeah,
con. And that's
yeah, dude, that's awesome. Like that's so great. Like, I love the fact that Jolly Balloon Man can like make that weird like interaction that
uh,
you're not really going to see anywhere else.
no,
Like that's
no,
awesome.
it's
That's so awesome.
great for Village Bellringer with because you just need one mana. You need any creature that taps for one mana. So I was stupid and I chose my mana vault to make extra infinite colorless, where I should have just chose my arcane signet. That way it would have at least been a 2/2 instead of a 1/1 with that taps for 3. Because everything I do
Or
is at sorcery speed. So like one Orcish Bowmaster would have
yeah,
nuked
Orchestra
me.
Master. Yeah, it does. It's a card that does exist. But hey, it doesn't matter because you got there.
You got
That's
there. Yeah.
freaking awesome.
That's what
That's
matters.
awesome.
So I
That's
end
what
up doing
matters.
it. I'm like sitting there like you. I'm like re-scrolling. I'm like, what are the odds? What are the and
Yeah.
I'm
Do I get it? Do I get
they
it?
show me I see it. I'm in 7th place. I'm
Dude,
ecstatic.
seven.
7th
Oh my
place.
word.
Ecstatic.
Yeah,
Good
that's better than me,
tiebreakers.
man. I was
Good.
at 16th. You're at 7th.
Yeah. So I'm really
That's awesome.
excited. Um I'm like, I'm going top 16. So we end
Yeah,
up
that's great.
yeah, I mean Karn MVP that game, 100%.
Oh
I
yeah,
just it
100%.
locked down everybody so hard. I mean, stopped Thrasios from drawing their entire deck, stopped Glarb from even being able to play the game. Like it was great. That Karn was huge. So love
Yeah,
Karn in that deck. It's such a utility piece because and people exile stuff and I exile stuff and nothing's better than minus twoing Karn just to get something that got exiled back in my hand. Somebody exiles
yeah.
Village
That's
Bellringer. No, oh,
another
it's an artifact. It has to be an artifact. But if they
yeah.
exile like any of my artifacts, I can just put it back in my hand.
Another little interesting interaction that like doesn't come up often, but it is something to keep in mind because like when it comes up, it's fucking relevant.
Yeah, I mean, I play Karn and Curie, and that's really important because a lot of times I'll exile the Curie exiles a creature to become it. So I'll get like my Phyrexian Dreadnought down for a 12/12, exile to Curie, making it a 12/12, and then Curie gets murdered because why wouldn't somebody want to murder Curie when it's a 12/12, drawing me 12
Yes.
cards? And then I'll just like recast Curie and be like, oh, how convenient. I'll play this Karn minus two it. Let's get that Phyrexian Dreadnought back. Play it,
Yep.
exile it
Yep.
again, and put it make it 12/12. So, um,
Yep.
yeah, so really great game. And then not so great semifinals. Actually, like a terrible ending experience to what a fun
Oh.
tournament it was. So, I'm
Well,
not gonna go
yeah.
in too much detail. Um,
Well, let's. How about we start out? Let's get into the decks. What were we looking at
yeah.
here?
So I I'm not gonna lie. I don't remember all the decks. You had
Yeah.
Madeline was on T and K. Then
Okay.
you had me in seat 2 on Jolly Balloon Man. Then you had
Mhm.
Luke in seat 4 on TNT. So Timna Thrasios. And then you had, I believe seat 4 was a Rogsai player. I'm pretty sure seat 4 was a Rogsai player. And that was Jordan. So this was the probably the weirdest experience I've ever had in tournament play. It was um,
It doesn't sound like a good weird.
no, it was a bad weird. Just a
Uh,
lot of like if you could say there's just like a lot of weird energy. But so I'm just gonna kind of go through it fast. when I say it's a weird game, I went down to like 6 cards, I think, and I didn't have much going for me other than some interaction like Pyroblast and stuff. The player across from me playing um, TNT, he went for like a quick Ristic, and the player in seat one that played T and K, they went for like a quick Necropotence, and nobody could stop it, and like protected it, and it was an issue. And then the Rogsai player kind of got blown out a little bit because they had a, I don't remember if it was a Ragavan. They had something that gave them a treasure. So thinking about it after the recording, it was a Malcolm, and I think it was Malcolm Bile Smasher that he was on, not Rograk Silas. So just some clarification there. It was a Malcolm.
Probably Ragavan.
I don't think it was Ragavan. It was something that triggered a treasure, and like 2 turns went by, and he was like, "Oh, I missed this treasure trigger. Do you guys mind if I get this treasure that I should have got?" And we were like, "Judge," we called for the judge. Judge came over and was like, "It's up to you if you want him to have the treasure. Like, he missed it. It is a missed trigger. You don't have to let him have it, but it is the table's choice." So I immediately was like, "I'm sorry, dude. It's the semifinals. Like, you missed the treasure trigger. Like, if we were playing for fun, like, have it, but you missed it. Sorry." And then
This is
Madeline
tournament play.
Madeline also was like, "You know what? You missed it. Sorry. Like, this is a tournament. This is semifinals. We gotta make our triggers." And the other player as well said, "Yeah, we got it. You missed it." So he was kind of upset about that we didn't let him have it. Then he passes turn, or it goes back around. He passes turn. He's like, "That basically knocks me out of the game that I don't have that treasure." Just passes. Madeline ends up dropping a Grand Abolisher, and she's on T and K. Grand Abolisher. She has both Timna and Crom, and then cast Crom after that because she like necroed for like 10 cards or something and got a lot of ramp and was able to get all of them out. Started drawing more cards. Now there's an Abolisher in play, there's a Necropotence in play, and we're all like, okay.
Pretty clear threat at this point.
So passes, runs out of mana. It's like, I pass. And I'm like, okay, we lose like on this next turn.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I'm holding a Deflecting Swat. I'm holding a Pyroblast. The stupid Grand Arbiter is freaking white, so I can't hit it. Can't hit Necropotence. I leave up some mana. I do some stuff with Jolly Balloon Man. Leave up some mana, and I'm like, "Hey, like, do you got anything?" Pass. He drops a Ristic Study, and is like, that's really all I got. Or he dropped the Ristic Study earlier. I can't remember, but basically was like, I don't have any interaction for this, but I can maybe back something up, and passes the turn. So it goes to the player, Rogsai player, and he ends up casting a wheel. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this wheel, but it at least may draw me something to kill the Necropotence before the next turn, or maybe draw me something to kill the Grand Abolisher on this turn. I'm like, let's do it. So the T and K player that's like clearly going to win ends up auto-warring the Ristic Study back to the player's hand. And I will admit right here, I don't know, does Auto-War opponent only, or is it? I think it's opponent, isn't it?
Well, hey, let's look that up.
Let's look it up. I think it's opponent.
Yeah. No, it's anybody.
Shit. So I messed up. So I will say right here, I misplayed. I could have Deflecting Swatted the Otawara here and targeted the Necropotence to get it off the field, and then the wheel would have discarded it, and it would have been glorious, and I missed it. But so I pass, the player that to protect it passes, and then it gets back to the Rogside player, and he goes, "Okay, nobody responded. I flash in an Orcish Bowmaster." And then we're like, "Whoa,
That's
you
that.
can't." We're like, "You can't do that. You had to hold priority to do that, or somebody had to respond, or you needed to respond to the Ottawara that you just let resolve.
Yeah,
You needed to hold priority and do that." And
yeah,
then
yeah. Just yeah.
so we all just sit there and we're like, he calls a judge and he's like, I cast this Orcish Bowmaster saying I can't do it. And he's like, explain to me what happened. He's like, well, I cast a wheel and everybody passed on it. And I want to flash in this Orcish Bowmaster before everybody draws their cards. And then the judge explains to him, you had to hold priority or respond to somebody doing something. So I was like, shit, if you would have let me know, I would have deflecting swatted something. Like I was like, I have deflecting swat. I would have deflected swatting something to like let you respond to it. And he goes, you know what? I quit. I don't want to change the game. I remove it off the stack. And then he just starts scooping up all his cards in the middle of the top 16 and scoops all his cards, and he leaves the game and he just
Man,
left. And I was
I really
like,
feel.
what just happened? I was like, dude, if you leave, you're literally just giving it to the T and K player. Like, at least let the wheel happen. He's like, no, I don't want to interfere the game, and just scooped and left. And the judge is like, it's his right. He's free to leave. And I'm like, that changes the
Okay.
entirety of this game. Like,
I also I want to interject here because I can imagine how livid you are. Like
yeah, a tabernacle is like the winner gets a tabernacle
yeah,
or
like
at
this
like
is
4 dual lands. So
yeah, like this is like
yeah. It was rough,
yeah,
and I
like
I was I was like low key like a
oh
little livid because you put your whole day into this event, and then
yeah,
like that happens to me online all the time, but I don't care. Like it's like, all right, whatever, you got to
it's
go.
whatever. Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
to be in an event that costs 65 70, I think it's like $65 $70 to go, get to the top 16, and then have that happen because everybody knows if you've ever played a 3-person commander just for fun, if you're like, hey, just 3 of us can play because we can't find a fourth, like it changes the entirety of the game, let alone a
Yeah,
Grand Arbiter's in play and a Necropotence, and all our abilities to interact
yeah.
are about
Like
to end immediately when this guy ends his turn. And now we didn't get any card draw. We didn't get like it just, and that a bowmaster, if he would have bowmastered then wheeled, I would have protected it with my pyroblast. The other player had a counterspell, we would have protected it because he would have been able to kill the entire board. It would have killed Timna, Crom, Grand
Grand
Abolisher,
Abolisher.
Grand Abolisher. Then we would have drew 7, and we would have been able to get rid of hopefully the Necropotence. But the important thing would be we'd all have fresh 7 cards, and we all would have been able to interact on the T and K player's turn. So past T and K, if I was, I will say, if I was more, and I should probably be this going to tournaments. I'm a really nice person. T and K probably should have lost 3 times during their protected turn with the Grand Abolisher in play. There was one point where a friend came over and helped them realize a line wouldn't work. So they changed what they were doing. So we couldn't interact. Like we couldn't interact. There was a Grand Abolisher, but while they were going through their lines, tried to do something. It couldn't have won the game. I'm sitting there like, they kept saying, "No, I just win." Like I win, right? You guys good to say I win, and I'm like, "No, you got to play it out. Like play it out."
Yeah,
So
show us the
they
win.
get breach. They get the otter in play. They get breach. They're going for a Thoracle line. Get everything ready. Mill their whole deck for breach. They have 0 cards in their library. They cast a Born Upon a Win, but don't hold priority. Mind you, they have 0 cards in their library. So they cast the Born Upon the Win. I go, yep. The other player goes, yeah. And then they're like, no, 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 no. I hold priority. I hold priority. And we're like, what? And
What?
I didn't even think about the card draw. Honestly, I was just saying, yeah, you got it. Yeah, you got it. And he's like, yeah, you got it. And then they're like, they pull it back. They're like, no, I hold priority. And I'm like you should, like, in my head, I'm like, you should, like, you lose here. Like, you
Yeah,
didn't
like
hold
you should
priority.
have. Yeah,
Because
you didn't hold
they
priority.
pass it and they're like, now I just win by casting. Like, I'll win by cast. They're like searching for Thassa's. And as they're searching for Thassa's, they realize they have to draw a card. And then they held priority and we're like, well, you should have lost here. So it was just like a really weird tournament. Then they were like, all right, I'm not going to let then in that case, I won't let Born Upon the Wind resolve. I'm going to respond to the Born Upon the Wind. So, like, then they took back, like, it was just really, and all the props, like, Madeline is a great player. Um, really happy. She actually ended up winning the tournament. So props to her, but she totally should have lost, didn't hold priority. And then also there was another point where they brain freeze the other player, not me, and cast a Mnemonic Betrayal because they were trying to get not to die to the Born Upon the Wind. So they were doing everything in response. So he flips his deck. She goes to, like, go through it, and then goes, "Wait, I hold priority on the Mnemonic Betrayal, and I also brain freeze you." And I'm like, once again, I'm like, but you didn't. Like, you literally have his deck in your hand, and you didn't hold priority. Like, you brain freezed him, and then you Mnemonic Betrayaled, started looking at cards, and now you're telling me I'm also brain freeze infinitely. Like, so, and then of course gets my Angel's Grace, cast it,
Yeah.
doesn't die, gets then cast Thassa's. So
Yeah.
it was like, props. It was just, there was four things that personally I was like, they should have
That's a
been, in my opinion, they should have been losses 4 times. There should have been losses in that game. But
yeah,
I'm
that's a
too nice.
really
I'm too nice. I wasn't gonna sit there and debate. I wasn't gonna, like, and I should have called the judge and been like, you didn't hold priority on the Born Upon the Wind, and it would have all just ended there. But
yeah. Like that's one thing to, like, especially for us as content creators, to remember. Like, it's one thing when we're like playing for fun
yeah,
on spell table, we're like, oh yeah, that's fine. But, like, in a tournament,
you have
I
to turn
imagine
that
she
gear. You have to turn that gear on, and
yeah, you gotta turn that
you
gear.
have
Like,
to.
I imagine she was probably like
She
under
was
some
flustered.
stress.
It was like a 40-minute
Yeah,
turn. Like, she was
yeah.
doing all these things, trying, like, kept going, drew,
But
40
but like
cards or like 30 something cards. I think it was like,
like rules as it is, you got a whole priority. Like, especially for me as a Stella Elite player, one of the biggest things I had this, like, when I first started playing Stella Elite, one of the biggest things I had to remember is, like, when I put the Cerulean Whistle in the stack, I have to hold
yeah,
priority
if you don't,
and copy it,
yeah,
because if I don't hold priority and nobody responds, I don't have the option to make the copy. And so, like, that's one of those things that, like, it's not always something that people think about, but at the same time, when you're in a tournament, like, those kind of, like, oh yeah, that's okay, those kind of go out the window, because it's not like you're just
no, you're
playing
like,
with you're not just playing with friends or playing
yeah,
with, like, random people online. You're playing for a tabernacle, or a plateau, or a tropical island.
yeah,
Like,
and even so,
playing
like,
for
the one guy
legitimate
missed the treasure,
prizes.
and we were all like, absolutely not. And then
Yeah.
to let, like, four things slide, like, that's, looking back on it, from now on, I will call a judge on anything that's iffy, and I'll let the judge make the call. But it's a learning experience. It is what it is. I ended up taking ninth, so I top 10. That was pretty cool. I was happy with that, but it didn't feel good. It didn't feel like like most games. I don't care if I win or lose. Like, it is what it is. But, like, that game especially just felt like a bad. It was very
It was
ick. It was ick. Like,
yes, it
to
was
have
ick.
a
It was a
friend
very icky
interfere,
game.
to have should have lost, to, like, all these things compounded, like a guy
Yeah.
quitting in the middle of his turn. Like, it was just like, what a terrible way to end a tournament.
So
Um,
I want to interject real quick. If anybody's watching this and you're at a tournament, listen, it is not okay to be a bystander and tell somebody, "Oh, hey, you're supposed to do this," or "Hey, you should have done that," and then let them, like, they get to take it back, or, like, tell them what to do. Like, that's not okay.
yeah,
That's
because the
that's
problem was the line. I had a blind obedience in play, and then the line that she went for, she was like, "Yeah, I just play this and I mill you guys out." Um, but the problem was, it came in tapped because it's an artifact.
Mhm.
and she didn't have the ability to untap it. So like
Yeah.
she's explaining this whole line to us as she like does it and like puts it into play and is like telling us all of it. And I'm just like, okay, and I'm like, I don't see how that actually wins. And that and we were all just sitting there and she's describing to us, and then like I'm like, no, and then that's when the friend comes in and is like, no, like this the reason I don't play this is because you can't activate it's also only a sorcery speed. So like the
Yeah.
win that she's going for was it had to be an instant speed win because it was all on the stack of a Born Upon the Wind, and it's sorcery speed only. Like it literally says on the card, sorcery speed only. So the friend interjects like, don't do that line. Like you can't do that. Like it's sorcery speed only. That's why I took it out of my deck. You have to do a different line to win. And like just putting a bunch of
Mm.
resources and exiling a bunch of cards from the graveyard for breach to like do this whole line, and we should have just it should have just kept going until she figured it out on her own that that actually doesn't work, and that could
Yeah,
have
yeah,
changed
exactly.
should have changed the
Exactly.
game.
That changes everything. Like it's yeah, like that's I understand how you feel. Like, hey, first off, I'll say congrats on top 16. That's awesome. Getting
Thank you.
top 16, Jolly Balloon Man, that's amazing.
Yeah, and that was my
Like
only
that,
goal. Honestly, going into it, I was like, I'm putting Jolly Blue Man on the map. I'm gonna top 16 with this deck. Like, people are gonna
yeah,
start noticing it. Hopefully, when they check out tournament results, and then a bunch of people will just start playing. That was my goal.
yeah, and that's great. But like, that's definitely, like you said, that's a very icky way to end the tournament.
Yeah, it was
Like,
definitely an icky way to end the. It was really depressing, and that's why I didn't take good notes on that. I didn't really take many notes on that game because I was just like so distraught and just frustrated at the whole way to lose, and
and
it's just
you
weird.
said this was so like, okay, I'm gonna make a couple hot takes here.
Yeah,
So if anybody wants to crucify me, you know what? You're welcome to crucify me. I'm an opinionated person. But like you said this was a 5K, right? Like this is like,
yeah,
there's like legitimate cash prizes
yeah.
on the
Like a
line,
2 grand
stuff like
tabernacle.
that.
The next prize was
Yeah.
a bayou.
Like
The third
like
place was a I think a plateau or something, and then a
it's not like it was a game store who's like, yeah,
yeah, five
store credit.
bucks. Yeah, you get five
Yeah,
bucks.
yeah, store credits on the line. Or like even if it's $100, it's store credit. Like it's not like you would think this whole tournament felt icky to me from the beginning with the judge being like, I don't like sticker goblins, so therefore it's not allowed. Like that feels icky.
Yeah,
And
it
then
felt icky, and luckily, like he was chill eventually, and he like came around to it. But it
but like
was like a very stern, like the cards just banned out of nowhere, and like that
and then
was like a very weird way to start a tournament. Like I've never been to a tournament
no
with
heads up.
no heads up being like, oh,
No heads up.
one of your 99 needs to be taken out, and you better have a binder with you to like put a card in for it. Like
Yeah,
I
like
don't. I brought my deck.
no heads up. No heads up
Yeah.
is like the biggest thing about that. No heads up being like, hey, like the judge have been like, hey, we're not allowing sticker goblin. Then we'll give you some time. But like you said, you came with the deck, expecting
Yeah,
it was
I
okay,
came
and
with
then
just a deck. I didn't come with anything else. I don't have any cards.
I know my tournament. I went there with just the deck,
Yeah.
and if somebody had told me, oh, hey, the judge decided that we're not allowing XYZ card, then I've been like, I guess I don't play, or I guess I buy a random card to
Yeah.
just throw in real quick.
Yeah. Oh, and I one of the games Sticker Goblin did. I think it was the second game. I don't think I talked about it, but Sticker Goblin won me the second game I played. That was one of the cards that got me a lot of mana to do what I
Yeah.
needed to get there. But
Well, hey, that's a great getting to top 16. That's awesome. It's unfortunate how the tournament ended, but hey, you know what? Top 16 with Boros and not with Noto Boros. That's not something a lot of people
yeah.
can say.
No, I was super pumped. I wish I could have got top 4. I know Jason made top 4, ended up not getting the whole thing, but that's really cool. I was really happy for Jason, who I played with in the first round. So he ended up going to the top 4 and not winning, but congrats to Jason. Congrats, Madeline. You won. I hope you, if you watch or somebody knows that person, no harm, no foul. Just didn't feel good to lose that way, as described, and that's from my point of view, right? That's my perspective, my point of view, and what felt like a minute to me could have been 45 seconds. You know what I mean? And maybe
Yeah.
that makes it more
Um,
okay to pull back I cast this and this is how I win. Oh, hold on, I hold priority. But it's complicated because the Grand Abolisher's in play. So like most of the time, every time a card was cast, we both went, yep, yep,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
You got it. You got it. You got it.
Yeah. It
You
definitely.
got
Like,
it.
I'm sure. I'm sure Madeline, like you said, she was probably like,
Just trying to win.
it's
A judge did come over at one point. He was like, "You need to hurry up," you know. And at that point,
yeah.
I think Madeline was really
Well, it's like
just
really
trying
like,
to
oh
like, shit.
man,
I need to
like
figure this
yeah.
out. I'm
Okay.
I'm
Okay. I
not in
gotta
a good
figure this
place. Like,
out. Yeah.
how do I
Yeah.
win with this Born Upon the Wind on this stack at this point? Because like, if that resolves, it's just game. So,
Mhm.
so I think they were just rushing and trying to get there. But like, that's why I'll say, always make people play it out. I will say
Yeah.
the first thing that happened was past turn, infinite mana, like eventually getting there, infinite mana and whatever, and just saying like, okay, I win here. Like, are you guys good to call it? And it's like, no, like show it to me. And I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many tournaments I've been to as a competitive player in modern or legacy and made somebody play it out. And they're like, oh, I just win here. Are we good? And it's like, no, play it out. And then all of a sudden they tap the wrong mana and they're like, oh wait, and they like cast something, and they're like, oh, I need to wait, I'm gonna change this to this mana. I didn't realize that I needed my red, and you're like, this is like a tournament. You can't like you already cast
Yeah.
that. That's what you cast. That's the mana you used. Like we're at a tournament. You can't and
Yeah.
And maybe it's the
Exactly.
1v1 for me is maybe I just need to turn that because I'm so used to just playing for fun commander, right? Like I haven't really played. I play competitively, yes, but I also play for fun. It's not for a big prize or whatever a lot of
Yeah.
the time. So
It's
I just got
it's
to
a
get
funny
back in that
thing.
mentality.
It's a funny thing. I was actually talking to somebody about that. It's a funny thing where we are in content creators. We play competitive EDH, but we play like casual competitive
Yeah.
EDH.
Well,
We're playing to win, and like everybody's at top tier, but like it's casually
yeah.
at top
I
tier.
can't tell you how many times people are like, oh, I tapped the wrong man. Is that cool? And she's like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah,
Nothing's
or like, oh,
changed.
I missed this Ristic Study trigger. Do you guys
Yeah, you
mind?
guys
And we're like,
mind?
yeah, yeah,
Okay, you're
sure,
good.
go for it.
Yeah. Oh,
Or
but
or oh,
and then there's the games where people are like, "Hey, I'm training for a tournament," and then you're like, "Oh, okay, like we'll hold you accountable," you know,
yeah,
and then you do that because you're only going to get better when you're holding people accountable in those settings,
mhm.
especially if you're training for a tournament. Then there's like your tournament training, like I'm not going to let you take anything back, so like make sure you're playing the right play, you know.
Yeah, I've definitely been there. I've definitely been there.
So overall, great experience. Had a ton of fun. Gave everybody I played with a high ground gaming dice, as a gift, which was cool. Got a lot of people. They joined my Discord that I talked to. Made a lot of friends that I'll hopefully continue to play Magic with and jam some games with on our Discord. And um,
That's awesome.
yeah, I'm just really excited, really happy with the turnout. I mean, top 16 was my goal. Tabernacle was my second goal, and I completed one of them, so I'm happy.
That's awesome. That's great. That's great to hear.
Yeah. So I guess we'll wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I got a lot of Jolly Blue Man stuff coming up on TTC Thunder Conductor on the 15th. If you want to go to his Twitch, I'll have it in my Discord. You'll be able to live watch that, interact if you want to ask questions, kind of get involved, make comments. It'd be fun to have people there to interact with and answer questions about the deck. And then go check out Celestial Winter. Really good dude. Plays clean lines, good magic, and always just fun to
Oh,
play with. A good guy, and like,
I don't
subscribe
know.
his content.
I don't know about the clean lines or good magic, but thank you. Yes, yes.
Well, you've kicked my butt plenty of times, so you know. But
Well,
cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. This was really cool. Go make sure after you watch this, immediately go to Celestial's channel and watch his tournament experience. And it's part A and B of the tournament experience. Hopefully, our next tournament, hopefully we'll be able to do a tournament together. That'd be cool, and then we can actually do
that
this
would
at the
be
same
awesome.
time. So we'll have to
That'd be
get that.
awesome.
I know Magic Con Chicago's coming up soon. Unfortunately, I won't be able to go. I wish I could, but I know a lot of people are getting going out there, so that'll be a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. hopefully I'll see people there. I'm planning to go. We'll
Heck
see
yeah.
what happens, but I'm trying to go. So
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
thank you so much. And like, subscribe if you like this content. I know this is a little different. So let us know if you like this stuff. We can start talking more often and do kind of breakdowns of different things. I think this is a fun thing to break up the gameplay videos and get some just conversation going. This is what we do on our Discord all day
Absolutely.
is just talk Magic. So it's always fun to just talk Magic
Yeah.
and get deep dive into decks and things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This was a lot of fun. Thank you
Definitely.
guys so much for watching.
All right. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a good night. Bye.
See ya.
Just want to take some time to give a big thank you to our Patreons. The legitimate business person tier, Tyler Dean, aka Absolute. Really excited. I know he is coming up with some content of his own, so looking forward to seeing that when he starts to release it. Ryan Johnson and Rumble Pack, thank you so much for all your support, as well as our Goblin tier, Cousin Two Chains. Appreciate it. I know nothing comes with the Goblin tier, but it does mean so much to me to get that support, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you for everybody. Look forward to putting on more content in the future. Catch you guys on the next one.